have our fine arts concert tomorrow at about 2:00. I think it's 2:00 it starts. So kindergarten through second grade, we'll be putting on their winter fine arts concert. And that's really about it. Coming up quickly, so.
Chris?
Okay, last night was the 5th through 8th Fine Arts Holiday Concert, and this Sunday will be the high school Fine Arts concert as well. FFA Fruit came in today, and we are beginning to prepare for getting kids signed up for next year.
Seems like you just started.
I know.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, Aaron.
Great. So we'll start with kind of the highlights and opportunities that we see. Every year there's accountability, or they're called school report cards. And last year they made a change. So the change really was in the percentage and how they worked out that overall score from previous years. So the DPI was very clear. Don't look at past year scores because the calculation is very different. So we'll kind of go through and give you some of the highlights that of where our students did well in, and then the opportunities that we see moving forward. So we'll start at each school. So Cuba City Elementary, Troy, you're up.
Sounds good. Our celebrations were our priority scores and achievements. They were very clear that these are not percentages, but scores that they have a formula to figure out based upon you get so many points if it's a advanced, below, all those types of things. So for us, our ELA, Cuba City's priority score was 67, and the state was 59. So we were happy with that. Our math, Cuba City's priority score was 82.5, and the state's was 61.1. And then overall, we were at a 74.8 in priority score achievement, which is higher than 72.7% of the K-5 schools. Our ELA advanced group went up 7.8%, higher than the state average, and our below basic group went down 16.5%, which is 11 points lower than the state average. And then an interesting one is the third grade ELA multi-year, which is an educational milestone that predicts post-secondary success. And Cuba City's was at 74.5, and the state's was at 57. So those are some of the celebrations from the report card. Growth possibilities. Our overall growth score was 50.8, which was higher than only 14.8% of the state schools. Now, some of that is, obviously the higher you score, the higher it is to get those growth. And they measure it on a certain amount of growth. It's not that we didn't grow at all, but we didn't grow to a certain point that they measure where they want us to be. And then we did have two demographic groups that scored lower in both math and ELA. And although you're not supposed to compare, obviously we'll take a look at those and see if we can do a better job of meeting those groups' needs.
So they used to say, they used to categorize kids into all the different subcategories. So that would be students that speak English as a second language, students with disabilities, financially disadvantaged children. And they would say which group scored the lowest, whatever group that was your priority group. They don't do that anymore. They just take a look at the bottom 25% of anybody, no matter what category they fall in. So that's a big change in how the actual equation works. So that's why they say you really can't look at previous scores to this score, because some districts won't move at all, but some will have a big difference, even if the kids scored the same. Okay. Move on to the Cuba City Middle School, Chris.
I don't have a pronounce yet. You're wrong. Okay, so overall, our score for the middle school is 73.1, which is exceeding expectations. Our ELA achievement score, and this is anybody that was proficient or advanced, was 73.1, which is 13 points higher than the state expectation of 60.1. On our math, the proficiency was 66.1, which was 12.5 points higher than the state expectation of 53.6. We can actually go one more because there's a math growth as well. Yeah. So our ELA growth was 69.8, which is 3.8% higher than the state expectation, and our math was 64.1, which was actually 1.9 lower. But again, that's how much we grew. And kind of like, and I know we shared some information with you as a board following last month's meeting. And what we saw is that, we are, I think, over the last 4 years, the last 2 years, we have been in the top 5. And I think we were like third, and then we went to second. So that's where the growth is not, we're at the top already. And so we're not showing as much growth as the state would like to see. And unfortunately, they weighed a lot of the report card. What we found as we were going through and putting this information together was that those 30 schools in our CISA, it's almost inverse. Like the top schools, we're seeing some of the lower report card scores, and the bottom schools, we're seeing some of the top report cards because of free and reduced lunch and because of the growth that they show from where they were to where they are currently. Where we don't show nearly the growth because we're already floating around at the top.
The highest scoring district in our CISA, that scored about an 82 points on that score. Their English and math scores neither of them were in the top 12 in our CISA of 30, but they were the highest scoring district by far. So they really don't look at achievement as much as other items.
The way they score it and the way it was explained to us is it's supposed to be an equity piece where they're trying to get schools to score somewhat more equitable. But again, I don't know that it necessarily is. It kind of almost punishes the high scoring schools. So.
Is that the highest scoring in growth is what you're saying is?
No, overall score. Overall.
Okay.
So like we've got a elementary, middle school, and high school score, then we have a district score. And so we broke this down by every school, every subject. We didn't do the grade by grade level, but we went by every school. Troy and Chris and I did that, and then we did the district. And we found a lot of shocking things when we were looking at, the percentage of kids that were scoring proficient advanced versus the report card score, which 2 years ago wasn't the case.
And I would share with you, when I came in, and I was actually sitting in front of you looking for this position, and I told you that was one of my big fears was the way our scores were at the report card. And now being in the position and going through some training on the report card and spending a day putting this information together, I feel much better about where we're at simply because I've seen where our actual scores are. And like I said, when we're riding on top of that doesn't scare me near as much. And it's good to note that.
I guess the concern would be though is, are there educators such as Aaron involved in how this system was set up to do the overall score? Because it seems like it's, pardon my French, blank backwards.
Lisa Arneson from CISA 3 is on the team that created that. And I scheduled time with her to go through because I had some concerns that it looks like our district is, we're meeting expectations, but we want to be exceeding expectations. And based on our proficiency, I believe we are. And she said, I'm on the team that develops this, and you really can't look at that number as a representation of how good your school is anymore. 2 years ago, you could. She's on the team that developed it, and she said this is not a good indicator. It's a data point that you should look at. And we found some growth opportunities in looking through it too. So, and we'll share those coming up. But the days of saying, yep, this is our school report card, this means how good we are, she cautioned us to do that. And she's on the team that built it.
So then why have it?
Good question. I think the legislature says that we have to.
Yeah, so it's there, but don't look at it.
Don't look at it. Don't use that as the only indicator on how your school is. Dig deeper and figure out, okay, based on these numbers, we could tweak these systems and that might score better.
So if somebody's looking around to move to the area and they're supposed to look at more than just that number then?
But how would they know that?
Right.
Well, I'd be interested in her response to the question of what is the purpose of it then?
Yeah, and when I asked her that, that's what she said. She said, just dig deep and see if is the data telling you that any systems could be tweaked or improved? So we have done that. All right, we're going to the high school?
Yep, so I've got the high school in here as well. So again, overall score was 66.2, which is under the category of meets expectations. ELA achievement, again, 4.2 higher than the state expectation. Math is 67, which was 13.4 points higher than the expectation. Again, the growth on ELA was lower than, and again, that was because of, us being up higher. Our math actually did have a pretty good growth there. And then the one thing, so what Troy shared with the third grade, there's some kind of key points. And with high school, we look at on track for graduation. And our school is at 96.4, which is 5.2 points higher than the state expectation. So, that's a key thing that we want to focus on, is the fact that we're doing much better than a lot of schools as far as having kids ready.
That looks back for the last 5 years, the graduation rate, and also looks at last year's attendance and how many kids were considered to be truant. So that's where they get those numbers.
I think the last time we talked about these, the term was state average, and now I see state expectations. Is it an
That's-
average or is it an expectation? What is, can you explain that?
Well, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, the state says if, this is the average of where most schools would place.
Is that in?
Would place or do place?
Yeah,
Is that true?
it is a state, it's a
Or is
state
that just
average.
a number the state
Yeah.
says? It's a state average.
They give us, they say the state, the average for, the average score for third grade reading was a 380. And then we can look and see where our average score was in other schools' average score, so.
And they kind of explain that too, because they said that they take how kids did last year and where they're expected to grow to, and that's kind of how they come up with that number of where it should be.
There's two ways that you can show growth. So the first one is by moving up a category. So I go from below basic to basic. That scores your school points. If you go from basic to proficient or proficient to advanced, that's one way that you can score. That's basic growth, and there's more advanced growth. Is if a third grader scored a 380 last year, then the state says that student should score in fourth grade a 390. But if they scored a 389, they don't score you any points. If they score a 390 or 391, they do. So there's two different ways to score growth. So our lowest area was growth, but we have more kids in advanced in reading and math than last year. We have more kids in proficient, and we have fewer kids in below basic. So the categorical growth, we're kind of on a 3-year trend that's going in the right direction, but it might be that they're supposed to grow 10 points, they scored 9. And
So they're not growing fast.
they're not growing fast enough that year. All right, then we can move on to district average. So we're at 69.4 in the score, which is meets expectations. It's 0.6 away from exceeds expectations, which is what we've been for the last couple of years. In achievement, we outscored 82% of Wisconsin school districts. That's in math and reading. So we have more advanced and proficient scores than any of our last 3 years in both reading or ELA and math. These are kind of the highlights. The on-track indicators, we outscored another 82% of Wisconsin school districts. So our priority items, these are areas that we want to make sure that we target. The bottom 25% of test takers, that's a new equation. We can look at that and say, okay, now that we know it's not in one category, we look at all of those. That's why win time is so important at elementary and middle school, because during win time, that's where we take a look at, okay, who is the state considering below basic or basic, and what can we get them, what can we do to make sure that they're proficient in previous year or in future years. And then individual student growth, not the categorical growth we were talking about, because that's on a 3-year upward trend, but the individual student growth. And again, that's why we have win time. That's the goal of win time, is to get those kids who are scoring below basic or basic to a proficient level. So that's kind of what we're working on. Chris and Troy are working on some data boards with teachers to get in and start looking at some of this data for individual students and use that as a data point in what they need for win. Not the only thing, but that's certainly something that we look at. We also use STAR testing, and we use teacher assessment. I think this child needs help in this, so I want to make sure that we add that in win. So those are the 3 ways that we look at win and determine what those students actually need.
Will you have a bottom 25% of test takers every year?
Every year, yep, just the bottom 20, if they're all proficient, it's still the 25% of
Yeah.
kids that are the lowest
They could be
scoring,
doing decent and still
Yep.
be in the bottom 25.
for sure. So any other questions for any of us about report cards? Just don't ask me about the equation, because they showed the equation and it was pretty wrong, and Chris is a math guy, and I don't think he gets it either. All right, we can go on to the next thing, thanks.
All right, thank you. Did you have anything else for your superintendent report?
No, because I think we're gonna touch everything else later.
Okay. It is now time for the high school robotics club demonstration.
All right.
All right, good evening. We are the high school robotics team. We've operated for about 5 years. Last year's graduating seniors were the founding members. So this year our team's a lot smaller than it used to be. We still have a couple more members in this, probably twice the size than that are currently here. A lot are busy, but this is who's here right now. I'm the sole senior this year. The only other members we have are for returning members are a couple juniors, and that's about it. The rest is freshmen. So for what we have, we're making quite a bit of progress, and that's what we want to show you tonight.
I'm Reese. I'm a freshman, and I mainly work with like coding. I help build the robot, and I also work a great deal with outreach.
I'm Bella. I am a freshman also, and I helped build some of the parts on the robot and helped with some of the online stuff.
I'm Emma. I'm a freshman. I'm mostly outreach, so I make Instagram posts and Facebook posts to tell the community about what we're doing.
I'm Brandon, and I work with the design, and I help build the robot.
These are our two coaches that have helped us this year and from past years. Thanks. All right. So every single year with robotics, we have a competition that we attend, and an organization we're a part of. They send us a different sort of game or competition that we need to design, program, and create a robot for using different parts and pretty much building everything from scratch. So we've worked on this since pretty much the start of the school year. And so far, this is what we have. Our first competition, I believe, is in January 21st. So we've done a lot so far. And without the help of last year's seniors, since they've all graduated, I'm surprised we've gotten this far. So I guess we'll show you what we can do so far. It's not done yet, but we're getting there. Show us this one first.
Yeah, so basically with our robot is the challenge is we have to put cones onto different size poles. So what we did is we built 2 linear slides, and it's a pulley system. So it'll go up and then it'll help it go back down. And we have a claw in there so it can grip the cones. The linear slide will go up, put it on the pole, and then that'll get us points. Each size pole gets you more than different points. We made sure that the claw could rotate because there are those times when cones flip on their sides or they fall over. So this would allow us to pick up cones either standing upright, on their side, upside down, however we need to pick it up at. And the wheels are also kind of special because it allows it to go side to side easier. So you can go forward, back, you can turn it, and you can actually make it go side to side. So if you want to, there are different poles set up, so it's kind of like you have to work your way around each pole. So if you want, you can go in between poles to get to a shorter one or a taller one, and it helps you get where you need to go faster and better and easier.
So the cones, they go on top of there's like these yellow rods that we have to put them on top of, and then they'll slide down to the bottom. And there's one special cone that has a sleeve around it where it's placed right in front of the robot at the beginning. And we made our own pictures and colors on the bigger, and this will program the robot to show us where to park at the end of the match. Yeah. Oh, also the shorter the rod is, the less points it gets you. So like the super tall ones that they're like probably about right here, they get you 5 points. And then there's the medium ones which get you 3, I believe, and then the short ones which get you 1 or 2. I don't remember from the top of my head. Oh, our name is also I Am Not a Robot. And just kind of more on like what robotics is. So some of us are saying how we're in outreach. So robotics is also with the robot and building a robot and everything. But there's also outreach. So that's when you go out to your community and talk about what we do in robotics, what our team's been doing. So kind of like what we're doing here. So some of the things we've done for outreach is around the school. We may have seen posters. We've actually doing RC cars. So at certain basketball games, you can come, you can pay $3 and you can drive RC cars for 3 minutes. You can either do, we have like a battle pit, so you can go and just ram into each other, or you can race and you can win, tell your friends that you won, bragging rights. And then that also counts as fundraising and outreach.
And then what I'm showing you right here is how it'll drive and how it can put cones and how high it can go and how the claw will work. So, for example, if do you want to help me here? Or do you want to run the claw?
Sure.
So, do you want to show them what it does when it flips it over and stuff?
So we've put on a servo to the robot, which allows us to flip the cone over different directions. We've done that just so we can pick up ones that are on their side or just for extra versatility.
Also, during the matches, we are teamed up with another team from anywhere else around the area. So then we'll work together as like a team and then try to get the most points.
So basically, what's great about the robotics club and the robotics team as a club and an organization is we do a lot of real world stuff. A lot of our previous members have gone on to college to become programmers or currently attending to be engineers or several other things in the real world. And that's pretty much what robotics teaches us, because we're designing and we're building and we're programming and we're reaching out to businesses. We're trying to fundraise. We're doing all these different things that a lot of other clubs don't really have the need to do. But it's really taught us a lot. We learned a lot of problem solving. I've been in it all 4 years, and I definitely learned a lot more from it than I would have by skipping out and not joining it. So I think the robotics club is definitely a very valuable club, and we've done a lot with it, and we continue to do a lot with it. And we couldn't really do it without the support of the school district and our mentors and everything.
And as most of you probably know, though, basically the world's going on technology, and this is basically teaching us to get us ready for the technology world. So we can help be a part of that and help program all the new technologies and help develop and create all the new technologies that are coming into our world today.
Anything else?
Are your competitions timed?
Yes. So with the competitions at the start of them, for about 30 seconds, we have to pre-program all the instructions for the robot in basically an autonomous sort of period. So everything about the robot we don't have any control of as soon as we start the press start button. And that goes for 30 seconds, and then it switches over to the controllers, and then for about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we work with the other team to score as many points as possible, and that's what we do.
And I don't know if you can see it, but we have like a little camera or monitor right here, and that's supposed to help with the autonomous mode. And kind of like what Bella said before, is depending on where this cone is, that's where we have to park it. and the parking's for autonomous mode. So we use that camera to help us navigate the field and help tell where we're supposed to park so we can get those extra points.
I
They
just have
really,
to say you totally undersold this project at the beginning of your presentation. I was like, no, well, maybe it won't be as much as last year, but you remember what it was like the first year.
Oh, yeah.
we didn't have it.
This
We
is
didn't have
nothing like
moving
what it
yet.
was the first year. You guys did a wonderful job. That's really.
And like, they said they were partnered with one team. That doesn't mean that they're gonna be partners with that one team all through the competition. They get switched around. So one time there might be partners with a team, next they're competing against each other.
So if
Working
we're stuck
together.
with a not so great team, we're not the best.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, can you introduce your mentors, please?
This is Cody Austin, and this is Melanie Austin.
They're my parents.
She claimed it.
These kids have done a great job. They've built it all. In this program, we're not doing anything except for just kind of guiding them, on engineering principles and things of that nature. If you ask me how they programmed it, that's
I
those
don't even
guys.
know.
Somebody knows.
That's not me.
We have two programmers, Lucas
Yeah.
Hendrickson, he's not here, and then Emma there. She programs.
Reese.
Sorry, sorry.
No one does as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody.
Nice job. Yeah, they're here, but I think we have one speaker. Guys, do you have one speaker who's kind of speaking on your group? Or are you all gonna talk?
A couple of us might speak a little bit.
All right.
Thank you.
All righty, public recognition. Brian Lucy, you were first.
Go ahead, Aaron.
My name's
Or you
Aaron
can refer
Richard
to-
and I'm a lifelong resident of the school district. Kind of hit me today when we were talking about coming to the school board meeting, third generation, actually. we kind of put together a little task force of local business owners that are concerned that this referendum money won't stay within the school district. And now that I've got into this a little bit, I now finally realize how important picking the right partners to do this project, how important that really is. I want to applaud every one of you up front here for getting the school district in this financial position. I had no idea until I was asked to be on the first guided group to see where our finances are, and I'm amazed what you guys have done the last 5, 6, 8 years to get us in this position. And we're in a great spot. And passing the referendum was a feat in itself, but I think that's only phase one. I think what is in front of everybody here the next 24 to 36 months is going to be revolutionary to this community. And to keep that money within a radius of this community is huge, absolutely huge. The amount of money that's going to be spent in the school district is huge. I don't want to see that money pick up and move away when this project's all over. That money can be turned over in this community 2 or 3 times. I'm not a contractor. I have no personal connection, or I will see no advantage or disadvantage of who gets picked whatsoever. I'm just a concerned business person that I want to see this project be done diligently. And we've met with a few board members, and I am just so excited that your district administrator is all in. I'm totally excited. So with that, I'm going to let some of these gentlemen extrapolate on what we're kind of talking about.
So being in my business, I tend to drag a story out for a while, so I thought maybe I'd make a few notes.
First of all, super excited that the school building referendum passed. That was the easy part. Now the hard part. How do we get the most bang for our buck? I left the first focus group meeting thinking, wow, these estimates seem a bit high. So I did a little bit of research, talked to 4 different business owners that have or are in the process of building, that have built a new building in the last year, in the process of currently building a new commercial building. Of those 4 new buildings being built, 3 are by different contractors, one's a duplicate. So I did some averages, talked to the owners of the buildings, did some averages on what a commercial building costs to build. A nice commercial building, by the way. I came up with the round number of $150 a square foot. Please stop me if I'm incorrect in any of this. But I think the estimated square footage of the district's new addition is 44,000 square feet. This is a school project. I know there's going to be some extra expenditures due to it being a school project and not ran by a private business. So let's bump that estimated price of $150 a square foot to build a new commercial building to $200 a square foot. If you do the math on that, a 44,000 square foot addition of this building should cost roughly $8.8 million. If you go back to that first focus group meeting, estimates to build an auditorium, I don't know what the square footage was on that, it was like $9 million. That doesn't make any sense in this guy's mind. So, in having a conversation with my wife about it, I said, hey, this project estimates just don't make sense in my mind. Molly's like, well, how many times we came home from Milwaukee or Madison, and you look at me and say, we don't charge enough for food and beer at our bar. And she always reminds me that we charge enough, but a dollar goes a lot further in Keeler or Cuba City, Wisconsin than it does in Madison or Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So with that being said, I just hope that we do our due diligence as a board and as a district, and we think really hard about who we hire as a construction manager, because I think at the end of the day, we can get a lot more done with this $26 million than anybody up front dreams you get done with $26 million. And I firmly believe that. That's all I've got.
Hey, you made it in under 3 minutes.
I tried.
I'm gonna do it in about a minute. I'm Josh Keepers, again, a lifelong resident. I know most kids of Dickeyville. We are not the only 4. We're just happen to be the spokespersons, those people. You never thought that I did a lot of public speaking back in my day, but to reiterate what they said, we just want to make sure that, and it's awesome that we got the referendum passed. The board, the focus group was a joy to be a part of. We got to put our input on it. It was very good. So, we're just bringing back the feedback and some of the comments we're hearing. And of course, I'm sure you guys are getting phone calls, and gals are getting phone calls too on making sure that we spend it right, And I've been in business. I worked for PSSI. I worked for $1 billion company, and retired from there. And the one thing that I always said that was our highest costs on things was travel, right? Travel, food. You look at a long project like this, and you look at the cost. The people that, if we get contractors around here to do it, or subcontractors, my biggest fear is that we won't get them involved if we pick the wrong person. They will not take the opportunity to put in their bid. And we have a lot of great contractors around here. I think everybody probably knows that. But this $27 million is going to be life-changing for a lot of students and the future students coming through the school, which happen to be my kids and my grandkids, because I'm not going anywhere. So I think our big thing is to pass on the word that we want to make sure that we spend the money efficiently and get the best bang for a buck. I think no matter what contractor you pick as a general, it's going to do a great job. But how is the money going to be spent? Where's the money going to go? Who's going to service it? Who's going to service it afterwards? And I know we talk about, there's programs here that you're going to need help with from, we're going to have a lot of brand new equipment here. You're going to want the subcontractors around here to come talk to the kids and help mentor these kids. What's the odds of getting somebody from Milwaukee, Green Bay, wherever? I don't know who's all going to contract it to come do that. I just don't want the local contractors to not get a fair shot at what what they can present to you. And some of those contractors may not bid for a big company. And I think that's going to do a disservice to the cost of the project, to the end result of what we get. And I guess that's just the concerns, some of the things that we wanted to talk about. And we greatly appreciate your time. I know everybody's time is valuable, but appreciate you listening. And did I go under 3 minutes?
You got 7 seconds left.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, I'll piggyback off those guys. I'm Robbie Lang, if you don't know who I am. Lifelong Cuba City guy, still living in the district. I have 4 young kids that will benefit greatly from this new referendum. Kind of piggybacking off of these guys, the biggest thing that what we heard in some of the conversations we've had is one, obviously, whatever CM you guys pick, as you've already picked the appropriate ones, obviously, to fill out the paperwork to be qualified. So they're all going to get it done. The architect that you guys have chosen is obviously top notch, which is obviously the leading part of this. So that's already been decided. You're going to hear the largest guys are obviously going to have the biggest report card and the most references, but that doesn't mean they're going to do a better job, because ultimately it's all spec'd out by the architect anyway. So that everybody has a spec to meet, and they're all going to say, we're going to send it out for bid. But what we've heard is obviously the smaller guys don't like doing the paperwork necessary. So they're, the bigger guys are going to say, well, they didn't bond. They don't meet our requirements to be a subcontractor. So they're going to disqualify the small guys from the area on merit. But we all know those are the people that we all call to come to our houses. So if we use a local contractor that has a reputation with these small contractors, they will speak on behalf of them. They'll bond on their behalf. And that's why we would encourage you guys to consider that in the interviewing process about how would these larger contractors, whether it's Kramer, Findorf, or those guys that aren't from around here, how are they going to qualify the small guys in our area? So
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thank you. Appreciate it. You're welcome to stay for the rest, but if you want to get up and go, we won't be offended.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
New business. Approve the date and time of the January regular meeting. It's currently set for Wednesday, the 18th at 6:30. Aaron's asking that it be moved up to 5:30. Is that doable? The date and time, the 18th at 5:30.
That's fine with me.
We kept it the same day.
Same day.
If so, could somebody make a motion?
I'll move to approve the January regular board meeting for Wednesday, January 18th at 5:30.
I'll second.
Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinterman, yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item B is approve the co-op for girls golf and gymnastics.
No changes in either. We just need board approval, and then I've signed it already, so we'll have you sign it, Gary. But same thing, same schools, same length of time.
So golf is with Darlington, right?
No.
Golf was with Southwestern and Benton, and gymnastics is with Southwestern, Benton, and Darlington.
Okay, all right. Is there a motion?
Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the co-op for girls golf and gymnastics as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
White. Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinterman, yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item C is approve a survey bid for the school district campus. Aaron?
Yep, so this is the first thing we have to do for the upcoming projects. It's a survey bid for the entire campus. There was one for the particular parts of the campus, and then there's one for the entire thing, and that's where they look at everything from all topography. We know where everything is buried and where everything is in access, so it allows a blueprint. We don't have one of these right now. We did one last time just for a small area. This time we're actually doing it for the whole district. So if we ever are doing a small or large project anywhere on our campus, we'll already have where everything is.
Are there questions regarding the survey? Or what it is or means? Would someone move?
I'll move to approve the survey bid for CCSD campus as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinterman, yes. Pohl.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item D is approve the request for proposal for transportation services. Aaron?
Yep, this is the transportation bid. Our bid ends June 30th. Our current contract ends June 30th of 2023. And so this is for the next 5 years. And I sent this out to our transportation committee that they went through that. And Dan had some good questions. We got some clarification, found an error that we were able to fix. Didn't feel like it was that we needed to meet once everybody read through it. And we would like to send that out. We'll be sending that out with Southwestern. We're actually going to send them out together and try to ask companies to bid both of our districts in hope that we look at Southwestern and Cleveland as one district. So if we have some combined routes between the two, that could maybe have some savings for both districts. And if they drop some of the kids off at one school and drive 6 minutes to the other school and drop them off, that's going to be fine. That's how we're going to ask them to bid it.
Any questions regarding that? Alrighty. Would you like to move, Dan?
Yep, I'll move to approve the request for proposal for transportation services as presented.
Is there a second?
Collins,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Poll,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item E is approve the new high school courses for the 23-24 school year.
Yeah, we do this every December. So these courses would be offered next year, but they only run if we have enough people sign up. The courses that we'd like to add would be introduction to marketing, and that would be with Julie Joel, and then adaptive art with Mike Hadfield and Melanie Austin, who is here tonight as a co-taught class.
What is adaptive art?
Adaptive art is for students with disabilities, and they're doing therapeutic art, basically. And so Melanie is licensed in that, and then Mike has the art expertise. A lot of schools have seen good results with adaptive art.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the 2023-2024 Cuba City School, started reading. The Cuba City CCH courses for the 23-24 school year as presented.
Second, actually.
Yes.
So the motion
I
was.
started
the motion
reading and I was like,
sorry.
wrong
Yep.
motion. Okay, so
I'll
I'm sorry,
second.
who seconded?
I'll
it?
second it.
Thank you.
Brad did.
Sorry about that.
Brad.
All right. Collins.
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Poll,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item F is approve the 23-24 school district calendar.
Yeah, DPI approved our district proceeding with a school starting date prior to September 1st, which we approved at our last meeting. And then about a week and a half later, we got notification that they approved that. I did send it out right away saying this is what we're thinking about so people can start planning because people are already planning for their summer trips for staff and students and families. So it's the same calendar, no changes, and I recommend that we approve this.
Any questions? Would someone move?
I'll move to approve the 23-24 Cuba City School District calendar as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Collins.
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Poll,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item G is approve the Neola policy updates, volume 31, number 2.
These policies were all approved by the policy committee. The one change that we had some discussion about was every January we set seat limits, generally with special education students, where we say our current capacity can handle 15 kids and we're at 15. So we're going to close that section. If they have that disability, we cannot accept them. Neola offers something in addition to that because of a recent DPI memo that said if schools choose to, we can say if there's already an existing student here and another child that is not in school yet gets to be school age, they automatically qualify even if they have that disability that fits in that category. So it would be like if a student moved in here, we'd have to.
A sibling within that family.
Yeah, any sibling within that family is automatically approved, even if our seat limits go over. And we just thought that was a family-friendly thing. And we generally do things that are family-friendly. Everything else was, legal updates and legislative changes.
Would anybody from that policy committee like to make that motion?
I'll move to approve the Neola Policy Updates Volume 31, Number 2, as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Collins.
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
On to personnel. Item A is approved volunteer high school assistant wrestling coach Bradley Holmes.
This is a volunteer position, not a hiring, so it's just volunteer, pending background check approval.
Is there somebody who would like to make that motion?
I'll move to approve volunteer CCHS assistant wrestling coach Bradley Holmes as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Collins,
Yes.
White,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Pohl,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then we're on to resolutions.
And we do have somebody here from, we've got our architects from Bray. We also have somebody from Robert W. Baird who helps us with our financing. So we've got a couple resolutions today on the bond borrowing. We did have Mound City Bank contact us recently and ask if they could put in a bid. We allowed that. They did some research on what goes into having a loan that large. The president of Mound City got back to us and said, you're going to need somebody that has this expertise, and we don't have that locally. So we want to do what's best for your district. Go with ADM. ADM is one of the two companies, 99% of schools in Wisconsin that do large bonding, like we're going to do, use either ADM or their competitor. And so we picked one of those two. Only about 1% work with local banks. And we've got Mr. Meehan here who can talk a little bit more about that. If you want to talk a little bit about the two resolutions or those bonding, then if they have any questions, be able to take those. So I'll hand it over to you.
All right, good evening. Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to do this via Zoom, so this is very helpful. Thank you. The first resolution is for the bond anticipation note, and it's in the amount of $26,850,000. The note itself has been placed subject to your approval tonight. I should mention that Mound City Bank is actually one of the investors in the note. They're one of the purchasers. This was split up among 4 different purchasers, and they're one of those. Other than that, I can't give you any details as to how much they're in for, as much as just to give you that. The issue itself is dated on December 28th. What we're trying to do is get the money in hand before the end of the calendar year, which is we've accomplished. The maturity date is June 28th of 23, but it's callable as of March 28th. And so what's going to happen in the next few months is the work will be taken to look at the rating, which is currently at A+, but look at the bond rating once again, look at bond insurance, prepare the offering documents, and get the marketing material in position to go to market and ultimately sell what would be a definitive long-term financing. And that's the Series C issue. But Series A issue is to authorize the award of the bond anticipation note in order to get everything going and get the funds on hand, which will allow, as was just mentioned about ADM, the opportunity to turn around and start reinvesting the proceeds, which is a really good opportunity given that the party sort of structuring out, laying out the reinvestments to increase the amount of funds available going forward. So that would be great. I'll be happy to answer any first questions about Series A resolution before moving to the other ones.
Anybody have any questions about that part?
So ADM is the ones issuing the bond, or they're the ones that hold the money for investment after we take the bond out?
ADM would be holding the money and reinvesting the money in its investment portfolio once the bonds are, this note anticipation note is taken out. So that's resolution D on your list. But Series A is to go ahead and get the money at this point.
And so why don't we do an RFP for ADM and their competitor? Why aren't we seeing 2 rates? I mean, is there a possibility we could get a better rate with someone else?
Well, what ADM is going to do is when they have the funds in hand, they will layer out an investment portfolio, which will look at saying for this type of money based on the drawdown schedule provided, what type of allowable investments that take place. You can only invest in certain things in Wisconsin according to statutes. And they're well versed in what that is, and they're well versed in having the portfolio put together. The other technical nature of it is that with any borrowing, tax exempt funds, there are arbitrage rebate calculations that need to take place that matches to the time you've had the funds, the earnings you've had the funds, whether they need to be restricted investments, and ultimately whether anything above a certain level has to be repaid to the federal government, because these are tax exempt bonds. And they're well versed in that process and tracking those, that testing.
So there's no reason not to price it against a competitor. What rate they'll give us?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear that question.
He asked if there was any benefit to having ADM price against a competitor to see who we get the best interest from.
Well, I think what will happen is you'll find that, ADM can price against a competitor. What will happen is that it's all based on the time. I mean, the long-term investment layout based on the time the reinvestments are available at that minute. In other words, no one's going to lock in the rates today or a settlement on December 28th. That's too far away. And as treasuries, T-bills, T-notes, whatever's available out there changes minute to minute, hour to hour, and also what is available to purchase out there. It's really, you're probably better to select your team now to put you in position that when the money arrives on the 28th, it's layered out and invested at that point. But it really, you can't lock in the rates until you get closer to the date the funds are available to make the payment, the settlement date.
I guess I'm not sure you answered his question. The question was, is there's supposedly two firms that do this. Why ADM versus the other entity, or could we have put this out for bid to both, seeing who would charge or give us the best rate?
Were you able to hear
or
that?
their services?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I think if it's your wish is to go ahead and have us run a process to make a determination of who, what their fees are, but you really can't tie it to the interest rates because no one can say what the interest rates are for reinvestments on December 28th. Not today, they couldn't.
When Lisa and I first spoke about that, she said that pretty much all the fees are going to be the same. And she said, here are the schools that have worked with ADM, and I don't remember the competitor. I don't know who else does that arbitrage. It was ADM or another competitor. Do you happen to know who that is?
It's PMA.
PMA. Okay, so those were the two. We had more schools were using ADM than the other. So all things being equal, I just looked at which schools were using that, and more schools were using them than the other competitor. And they said Lisa said all the pricing structures are going to be the same. It's just what date do we want to lock in?
Right.
So that's how we made
the
it.
Process if we approach the other firm to instead of assuming what their fees are.
If we wanted to do that, I don't think we would pass the resolutions tonight then.
So we
If
have
we
to have
wanted
a
to go.
special meeting or something, because we want to draw
Well-
money on the 28th.
If I could suggest, what you might consider doing is passing the resolution tonight, subject to what additional steps you'd like to have taken between now and the 28th. And if it's decided that PMA is the other firm, well, then we'll move in that direction. To bear, it's right or left. It's not, we work with both firms. It's really getting someone authorized and, identified as a designated depository for the district, so that when the money arrives, we don't let grass grow. We get it invested right away, get it locked in and structured out, layered out. So the advantage of pricing, adopting Resolution D is to provide that authority rather than wait until your January board meeting. If it's your wish to wait till your January board meeting to consider it again, that's fine. We'll just have a time period where the funds will be not idle, but there will be at a lower return investment until the January board meeting.
So can we just make a motion when we get to D that we would get a price from the competitor and whoever has the best rates, we go with them on the 28th? Can we make such a motion when we get there?
Were you able to hear that?
And I apologize, I couldn't hear what the motion was. And if I could suggest.
The motion is listed as authorizing ADM. Can
So
we
his
change
question
our
was,
motion that
can we
have
change our
an
motion
option?
in the resolution from authorize ADM to authorize a specific depository company to do the rest, so, and then ask both companies to put in a bid?
Yeah, I guess on D, if you wish to have, if you wish to amend that resolution, to say it's a depository to be, determined, I think the only concern I have is that, ADM, RPMA are not currently a designated depository of the district. And I think you probably, I want to say maybe at your July meeting, you determine who your depositories are for the next year. And so if you do add one, you then need to take a step. Maybe if you'd like to, and I don't know if this will work because, I'm not an attorney. But one approach would be to list both the firm's names as a depository, as your designated depository. Now you're amending the resolution before you tonight, but to list both, and then to instruct the staff, superintendent, business officer, working with Baird to go through the process of selecting one of the two. I'm just thinking that after this meeting, your next meeting is when in January?
January 18th.
January 18th?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just would not like to leave money uninvested for 20 days. I would like, $26 million uninvested for 20 days is a lost opportunity.
As you've worked with both companies,
That's right.
What would be the best case scenario for money that we would save in one company over the other? Lisa made it sound like it would generally be neutral.
Yeah, it's not and I can't give you a dollar amount, but it's not a significant amount.
So we might be risking losing more in that month that we have the money
Well,
sitting there.
I read that resolution as just authorizing American ADM as a designated depository. So couldn't we redefine that resolution to just add a second company? Because we're not that resolution doesn't say we're depositing that money, right? Or is that in one of the earlier ones? I don't see it.
And so if you wanted to amend the resolution to include the second company, and then I guess what I'm asking is, would you then empower the superintendent to make the final decision?
Yes, depending on what rates we would find, or
Right.
fee, yes.
Is Baird going to charge a fee to investigate or, the second company?
I believe
No.
Would Brady and Quarles, or Quarles and Brady, because they write our resolutions, they'd have to go back and amend,
So they'd have
to rewrite it.
We can't just do it in a motion here.
You can, then we'd have to send it back and they'd have to rewrite it, then we have to go around and get all the signatures for that.
So there is going to be a fee associated.
There's gonna be a fee associated from Quarles and Brady. That might be more than the savings either company would give us.
That answers my question.
All right, any other questions about A? All right, hearing none, Steve, go
Can
ahead.
we go ahead and move, or does he have more
Do you have more that you want to share with us
on A?
on A?
I have no additional comments. I think we will, A is a standalone resolution for awarding the bond anticipation note sale.
We'll adopt all the resolutions in one motion.
All right.
You can go ahead.
Go ahead.
Did you want to talk about B or C?
Oh, I'll be happy to. And my only comment would be that when you should vote on each of these separately by roll call vote, just to be clear on that, but.
Oh, each separate, okay.
You have them separate.
That's what I was gonna do.
You have them
Oh,
separated.
I was going to ask for
got
a motion now and then move on to B.
Okay.
Got it. I will move to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of 26,850,000 bond anticipation notes pursuant to section 6712(1)B of Wisconsin statutes as presented. Is there a second?
I will second.
Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Poll.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution B then.
Resolution B, thank you. A resolution B is a parameter resolution, and what that says is that go ahead and work to move forward to sell the refunding bonds, taking into account the market, taking into account the rating, whether bond insurance is cost effective from different insurance companies. It does all the work to get you to the point to go to the market. One of the reasons you look to a parameter resolution is that you are aware of what else is happening in the market. For example, the Fed met today. This afternoon, they increased the short rate by 50 basis points. Their next meeting is February 1st. There's market items that would want to work around, as well as what other items are in the market that would be competing for interest. When does the unemployment announcement come up? Economic factors that we want to be in a position with your authority to have everything ready to move forward to hit the market, to go into the marketplace. And the parameter resolution says, as long as you don't issue 26,850,000, as long as it doesn't go out more than 20 years, as long as there's different steps that rule, requirements. And it also says that here's a, potential repayment schedule that we're allowed to change within certain parameters. So it's really moving forward to say, let's move forward to get the issue in a position to come to market, watch the market, monitor the market, and then move into it. That's the short version of what the parameter is of Series B.
All right, thank you. Is there any questions? Hearing none, would someone move?
I'll move to approve the resolution authorizing the issuance and establishing parameters for the sale of not to exceed 26,850,000 general obligation refunding bonds as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Poll.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I'm going to skip item C, so we.
Yep.
So we go to the resolution for the ADM. I think, is there any further questions or thoughts about that? Is it this,
Nope.
At this time, then, if there are none, would someone like to make the motion that is written here or amend it?
I'll move to approve the adopting the resolution authorizing the American Deposit Management Company as a designated depository for district funds as presented.
Second.
And there's a second.
Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader.
Yes.
Hinderman, yes. Poll.
Yes.
Bowden.
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. I see, Matt, that you were on here.
Thank you very much.
Matt, is there anything,
Thank you.
Matt, is there anything you wanted to share with the
I
group?
am here.
Anything you wanted to share
Good evening.
specifically?
Aaron, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. I think there's a little delay here. I was just wondering if there was anything that you wanted to share with the group about our meeting today. Otherwise, I can certainly do that when we get to that part of the meeting.
Aaron, I cannot hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you, Matt. You can't hear me? I'm not muted.
I feel like it's gotta be on his end because the other guy.
The other guy could hear us.
I am here, Aaron. Sorry, you there?
Yes, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, now, good, you got
I'm
it.
having a fun tech night. My apologies.
Great. I was just saying that when we get to the committee report, I'll share a little bit as Gary and Chuck will, but was there anything specific that you wanted to share with the whole board about our meeting today or anything else?
No, I just want to obviously let the board know that things are rolling along well. And thank you for continuing to engage with us in this process. We had a small committee meeting today, what we're calling our core planning team. We're dealing with a lot of just kind of initial high-level logistical conversations, schedule related, getting all of the specific partners on board. An example of the action you took this evening regarding land surveying. working with the Bayer team on developing a payment schedule or estimates so that you can invest your funds. A lot of behind the scenes work, but you're gonna see a lot of action in the very near future. So I'll touch briefly on schedule here, Aaron, only because you guys may not want to dive quite so deep, but the first two things you're gonna see likely happen are the elementary school roof replacement project and the beginning of site development work at the high school. So we are going to release next week the bid package to the markets to determine and get roofing bids to replace the entire roof at the high school. Now, we don't know exactly where supply chains are on roofing and insulation right now. Those are key areas that have been negatively affected by supply chain issues. So we are requesting those bids to come back with two potential schedules. The first being for completion of the work in summer 2023, and the second for completion of the work in summer 2024. It is all of our hope that the summer 2023 schedule is viable and affordable, and we can get materials in time. But we're intentionally asking for that alternate schedule for summer 2024, just to make sure that there isn't some form of a massive premium being paid, or to prevent us not getting any bids, for example, if roofing contractors can't get supplies in time for summer 2023. So please know if you hear that rumor that they're taking bids for the work to be done in the summer of 2024, that's only a protective measure to make sure that we don't have to go back through the bidding process a second time. If for some reason that the market doesn't allow for procurement of insulation or roof membrane in time to complete the work in the summer of 2023. We will then be working with whichever construction manager that the board eventually selects in January, when you make that selection, to bid the first package of work, which will be for site development work and what we'll call precast panels. We'll talk about that down the road, not critical to tonight's conversation. But it's the first major structural piece of the project that would go up, the wall panels, basically for the gymnasium box itself. And site development. We are building right over the majority of your parking. So our hope is that we can do the new parking to the far south end of the site in the summer of 2023 when kids are out of school, and have some temporary parking, hopefully not the final course because you're still going to be having some construction traffic and different things, but have that base coat for parking set up at the end of the summer of 2023 so that for that following school year you have some parking to support your events, your students, et cetera, throughout the school year. We're also working on a phasing plan. How do these different phases work? You add some space, then you move into that new space. When can we then remodel without affecting teaching and learning? So a lot of that work has begun. And also just beginning the actual architectural work of developing drawings well beyond a conceptual level, as you have all seen multiple times. Adding all the detail that's needed. We've got our engineering team engaged, so plumbing, HVAC, electrical, structural, civil, we're getting them engaged and under contract so they can begin their work as well. So it's a lot of behind the scenes work right now, but I hope you all know that we're working hard and working towards that target schedule of initial earth being moved in the summer of 2023. And following in, fall of 2023 with beginning to see the building come up out of the ground and a hopeful completion in fall of 2024. So I don't know if that was too much, too little, Aaron, but I just want to kind of focus on schedule for tonight because I think that's probably the question some of you may be getting most.
Yeah, I agree. Any questions for Matt? Matt, appreciate you joining us. And
thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Look forward. Sounds great. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of your meeting.
You too.
Thank you.
And back to item C, which was the resolution adopting the amended 2018 Grant County Hazard Mitigation Plan. Aaron, can you explain?
Yep, this is the resolution that we believe might help us or assist us in getting the FEMA grant. This is the Grant County. We met with several schools and they incorporated us into their Grant County Hazard Mitigation Plan. And then the next step is we have to adopt it.
If there's no questions, would someone move, please?
I'll move to approve adopting the amended 2018 Grant County Hazard Mitigation Plan as presented.
Is there a second?
I will second. Collins.
Yes.
White.
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Hinderman, yes, Poll,
Yes.
Bowden,
Yes.
Andrews.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We're down to committee reports in budget and finance. Chuck, Aaron,
Nope, nothing. We probably won't have anything for that until May. Usually that's kind of the next part of the budget cycle, May or June.
okay. Then B is the building and grounds. Chuck?
Nothing at this point.
We were gonna have a meeting today before the meeting, but our core planning team, which is made up of Ben and Brian, Heather and myself, and I picked Chuck and Gary, as Chuck and Gary are our retired people, so they can usually meet during the day on Wednesday. And what Bray said is our last referendum, FEH, had meetings like later at night and kind of wore out the Buildings and Grounds Committee, right, Megan? So they said they would prefer to meet during the day, and so that's kind of what we'll use our core planning. But we did talk about there are going to be some things, some minor things that we can say, yep, let's look down this area or that area. When we need an actual motion or actually some action taken, we're going to bring it to the board at a regular meeting or have a special meeting.
Aaron, would you be able to share notes and kind of keep us
Yes.
updated and like when they are and what is being discussed?
Yep,
and-
they actually come up with an agenda, so I'm going to come up with a folder and put that in our school board folder so
Okay.
that you guys can just see them all the time.
Couple of the things, one from our meeting today, that Matt from Bray said that at one building project, they recently had a lady came up to them at like the grand opening of that project and said, we heard a lot from you during we want your money, but we didn't hear from you since. And he said, yeah. He said, so they're going to try and develop something that we're going to either put in social media, Tri-County Press, something to release at least monthly. Is that what I thought I heard? So the public knows what's going on. Because, you may have heard something about like, well, or maybe the public's expecting this gym's going to be built next year. Well, sounds like it's not going to be then. We need to tell people.
And I appreciate the need for a core committee, but like Sarah said, the more informed
Yep.
we all can be, we can help with some of those.
And the other piece, for instance, is what Aaron was saying is that, for instance, the selection of the general contractor, that's not going to be Chuck, Aaron, or I, it's going to be the board. And we're going to actually do an interview process.
Do you think it would hurt to send out a little bleep right before Christmas? Just to say that, how we started?
So we had talked about that today and then decided no. So,
because
we would have had to tell Bray to start working on that communication today.
I thought that after this afternoon, because a lot of the families are going to get together in the conversation, whatever, at least they have a little bit of input. But
Well, it will
short
happen.
notice.
So,
I'm not sure we have enough yet to even share at this point.
No.
okay. Are there
steps?
other questions or thoughts like Sarah had? Okay. Communication review and strategic planning. Aaron, anything?
Nope, we've been using special board meetings for all those things.
Curriculum instruction and assessment.
We'll start up again September 23.
Personnel. I know you said you were working on the
I'm meeting with them.
meeting.
When we get to the point where we want some decision making, then we'll call personnel committee.
Okay. Policy, you just had a meeting. Is probably no need for another one soon.
About every 4 to 6 months, they usually send us an update.
Okay. And technology transportation, Dan.
The RFP is going out now to the bus companies, and we'll have a meeting once we get the bids back.
I think January 16th, somewhere around the January 16th or 17th is when they're due.
Hopefully we get some bidders. Foundation, there's nothing till
I believe
January.
We're going to look for February. I think that February is going to work.
CISA, I don't really have anything. If there's nothing else, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn. Is there?
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then Chuck, Gary, and Megan, we have a lot of things for you guys to sign in for the resolution. So if you guys can stick around and make those signatures. Everybody else, thank you for coming.